I'm live. What did you think, small business owner, human, whether or not you're a business owner? What did you think it would be? I have some things to say and to encourage all of us and all of us, not all of us, some of you I don't give a rat's ass about. But those of us who are sensitive, who feel all the things, I'm a small business owner. My business is down. um, it's been down even before this economy because of my own economy. My own physical economy has been down. And as I am physically feeling better and stepping back out into actual work, it's like, oh, fuck, what happened to the market? And so this morning, I've had a couple of conversations with other small business owners, one in France, one in Hawaii. And I just want to share some insights that I had with them. I had them for me. We had them together. And obviously, I'm very conscious that like this all looks very pasty and the light is fucked up, but it is what it is. What did you think it would be? Did we imagine that we would not have suffering in blank, in our business, in our marriage, in our relationships, in our parenting, in our health? And somewhere along the way, our capitalism, idealist, individualistic programming from outside of us has taught us this one achievement of whether it's a financial achievement or status or emotional state, happiness or joy, to the exclusion of everything else. And one of the things that I am so passionate about, mostly because most of my life, people have said, don't feel that way. Don't be anxious. Don't, way of saying it. As my client and I to mention something about somebody in her life saying, don't complain. And it just got me riled up. And I went and looked up the etymology of the word complain. And the complaining was an expression, let me see what it says. Expression of suffering. There's more to it, but there was an expression of suffering. And where did we stop allowing the holiness of an expression of suffering? I worked as a coach for a corporate company for about 4 years. And one of the stupid ass sayings they said running around the company, listen, I got some good stuff in there, but my God, there was some harmful stuff. But was like, if you're complaining, you're a victim. Well, sometimes we are victims. And why is that pathologized? And I mean, that's a whole nother story, but, and why? Now, I know the answer why, but here's what I want you to imagine. I want you to imagine that there is a place in your happiness, in your success, in your joy for difficult emotions and experiences. That in being a very happy, joyful human being, there is space for melancholy, for suffering. And I personally believe and have witnessed over thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands, like probably the number one cause of needless suffering in my own life and in my client's life is holding ourselves to impossible ideals. And somewhere along the way, capitalist essence convinced us, gave us images in our mind of perfection. And there's a saying in business, like being attached to results. And so many of us, myself included at times, have an image inside our head that we may not even be aware of, that we are relentlessly pursuing. For a few years, both my therapist and my psychiatrist were like, "You're really hard on yourself." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" Because I have had clients who like say mean things to themselves, like, "You're a horrible person," or "You're a bitch," or calling names and things like that. And I don't have self-talk like that. And it took me about a year to realize, oh, this is how I am relentlessly hard on myself. And I get it. There are parts inside of us that think if we let up, then we will melt into a puddle of nothing bonbons on the couch. And what we have lost from very early childhood on is learning the skills of holding nuance, of, David Bedrick has this book called The Unshaming Way. I love David Bedrick's work. It's beautiful. And I take his work and put it on a parts lens. So we have a core self and all these different parts. I work within the framework of IFS, internal family systems. And he uses the phrase shaming witness. And somewhere along the way, inside many of us, is this shaming witness that is so silent, but so thick. And with love and curiosity, noticing that shaming witness and how somewhere along the way we were trained to over-identify with results. A client the other day, so if you're a coach, every coach I've talked to, and I'm talking coach, I'm not talking, there's some people out here, if you're training marketing, right? Like there are people that, those people are still doing well, but a lot of people who are doing pure coaching, business has dried up. I had a former client let me know that her contracts in Canada all halted, and her entire business was government contracts with Canada. And that's all stopped. And in my own coaching practice, in my marketing, in my regular sharing my heart and showing my work and making my offers, which I've been doing for 20 years, it's crickets out there. And I remember a time in real estate when it was very similar. I didn't know any better because I was relatively new and I was a coach in a real estate world. But I remember the office across from me was this woman named Elaine. And Elaine was a big producer in our office. And she had a couple agents that worked for her. And her assistant at the time was Laura, who's still one of my friends. And it was like 2:00 in the afternoon on a Tuesday, and Elaine in her office was like, "Hey, come over. We're opening champagne." And I was like, "Why are we opening champagne?" And they're like, "The phone stopped ringing." And it was just an interesting awareness of when markets shift. So without going down that tangent completely, one of the things that I have seen in many people that like personal development, that pursue personal and professional growth, is that we accidentally are trying too hard and we have over internalized and taken responsibility for everything. that there is something wrong with me if business is down. And those of us who are self-employed, this is what we do. We made ourselves unemployable. Why? Because we're risk takers, because we're creative, because we're all the things that make this work. And my client in Normandy is taking some very big risk. And what happens when we take big risk? When we take big risk, all kinds of fear and uncertainty come up. That did not clean my glasses. That's because it was an art rag instead of a glasses rag. All kinds of fear and uncertainty come up. And I've been telling my clients for a long time. I remember being in a group coaching session, and we would have a certain call for people that had been in business for longer than 15 years. And so there were about 12 women on the call at the time. And I asked, how many of you this week, and this was, I don't know, 5 or 6, 7 years ago, how many of you this week have had such extreme doubt in your business that you thought of quitting? Every single one of them raised their hands. I raised my hands too. And I use that to point out that doubt is a part of not only running our business, but life. And somewhere along the way, this glorification of having impossible faith, never complaining, never feeling frustration, it's so toxic. Don't feel what you're feeling instead of allowing your feelings to be a part of the process. I had a friend say to me yesterday, she was like, I noticed so-and-so just puts their head down and gets to work and makes money and is not worrying about all the political stuff. And this is a friend of mine that, like me, she's actually one of the people I speak to about politics a lot and what's going on in world events. And she's involved in her community, and she really cares about this stuff, and she does what she can to make a difference as someone on the progressive left. And she still has to make money. She's self-employed also. And she's like, do I just shut all that down? And do I just shut all my anger down? And do I just shut all my fear down? And I said, no, babe, you know that. And we have to learn how to not just compartmentalize. I have another former client. Oh man, this woman, I need to get her on here and talk, but she lives in Pacific Palisades, that the whole freaking town burned down. Her kids' schools burned down. Her house did not burn down. Yay, but it's not livable. Boo, right? So it may as well have burned down. And yet she and her husband and their 3 boys have to go on with life. And so it's a combination of holding all of this. But something inside of us, because of the way we've been trained and educated, and I mean both formally and the way our caregivers raised us, and the way society raises us, and the way that capitalism and media train us, has said, this is the narrow way things should be, instead of giving us the skills. And so for my friend, I was like, I happen to know that she drives from her house to this park in her city, and then she does a long nature walk every morning. And I just gave her an example. I said, so what we need to do is find a very specific space in an already routine, and take that space and make time to process and express those fears and feelings. So for example, while you're driving to the park, every time you stop at a stoplight or a stop sign, bitch out loud, complain, vent, yell your fears and concerns to the sky. And then when you get out of the car at the park, take your walk. Make a space for it. It doesn't have to permeate all day, every day. So there are some ways we can, my client, Sarah Gibbons is her name, and she's done a podcast on this. I'll see if I can find the link to that. And you know, so we're not in compartmentalizing or setting up, as my husband's like, I have a system for that. And I used to think I never needed systems. I totally have, like, I have a plan for that. Elizabeth Warren it. I have a plan for that. I have a tool for that. I have a system for that. I allow myself to be supported by my systems. So one of the things I do, it may be kind of silly, but this is a $1.47 candle from HEB grocery store in Austin, Texas. I went to go buy some online and they're like $11. I'm not doing that, especially right now. But there's a system for that. It's not all or nothing. And with my candle, not only do I light it, but I light it with the intention of holding difficult emotions. I don't personally call them negative emotions. I call them difficult emotions. And so my favorite filler language. And so I have been anxious about money. I have had a lot more fears come up. I have had all kinds of, we call them parts. Like I have all these inner psychological experiences, physical experiences of anxiety and stuff. And we can either shove those down or we can outsource them and medicate them and do whatever, or we can bravely and compassionately and courageously work with them. And as I've learned to work with them, not only do I work with them in my own mind, but I find a place for them and for me to be in connected attunement with them. And so one of those is not just lighting a candle for joy or happiness, but lighting a candle to say your rage is holy. Your complaints are holy. Your grief is holy, whatever it is. And I get it. It's actually, well, I get it because we've been trained this way, right? Like nobody wants to be around a party pooper, or so and so is so bad, sad, and they're always complaining. There is a place of excessive, right? And the two extremes, either excessive, it's a place. Let's get your words right, Allison. Let's communicate with intention, not perfection. So one, there's the place of stuffing and shoving and masking. Been there, done that. And it will come up through your body and wreak havoc on your life. And then there's also this place like where we're just free flowing, unrestrained emotions. And that's not necessarily healthy either. It can be just as toxic as the complete shoving down. And what if we learn skills to care for and nurture these experiences within us? My girlfriend ended up telling me what she did instead. She kept her morning routine the same, but what she did is decided to start a practice for like 10 minutes at night and turn on her favorite music, get off of all screens, turn off all TV, turn off all social media, and for 10 minutes in her own living room by herself, freaking have a dance party with music. Speaking of which, I have a really great rage playlist that if you get about 10 songs down, all the rest of the songs are good. The first ones are like crappy rage, Katy Perry style. But it gets into some really good shit. And so there is a way to experience difficult emotions without harming other people, without harming yourself. And we live in a society that shuts everything down. Don't complain. When somebody dies, like, I just want to run around and be the grief police. Like when somebody dies and you see people say, oh, they are in a better place, like they're making all, instead of just holding the tenderness of impossible loss. You're right, there are no words. And we try to deflect it. As humanity, we've been taught that. Not everybody does it, but right, like, I want to be somebody, and I am somebody. I know that I am somebody. I can hold so much, especially for others, and I'm learning to hold more for myself, but without having to fix it. Even in internal family systems, so this is going to get a little nuanced for those of you that actually know anything about this model, in internal family systems, there kind of is, when they teach it to you, there's a linear process of recognizing parts, and then you go through this whole process, and at the end you unburden parts. It's very linear, and I'm not a linear person, clearly. I'm a very bottom up, sensory, intuitive, like based on how my body feels, I move. And in 5 years of doing IFS, I've one time had a client that naturally got to this unburdening phase. And in these online forums, I see so many people affixed to the linear process, like of doing it right. And what I have found to be true in me and my clients, this is not true for everybody. And my client today, we weren't even doing IFS. She was just sharing what she was doing. And she's wild and creative. And we've talked about her, like I have this vision of her at a turquoise wooden table, and she has tea. And I imagine you just like mismatch teapots and creative florals, and she usually has a floral scarf around her neck and bright vivid colors, and her parts like shame and sadness and fear sit at this little table and have tea with her. Up on my wall I have this phrase by Francis Weller from his book The Wild Edge of Sorrow. Attunement is a particular quality of attention wedded with affection offered by someone we love and trust. And that is what your complaints need. When our complaints, when our grief, when our fear, when our anxiety receive attunement, presence, connection, affection. Thich Nhat Hanh says, there, fear, I see you. I will not leave you. I am here for you. And then in IFS, once we've made that attunement, we sometimes say, what do you want me to know? Instead of us telling them what to believe, right? Like we're always telling these parts of us, you need to do this, you need to know. What do you need me to know? Okay, have a good lunch. Tell them I said hi. What do you need me to know? What are your fears and concerns? And we witness those fears and concerns without saying, stop complaining. Most of the time, those concerns are actually valid. We can look at our fears and concerns and say, yeah, I can see that is a valid concern. And we don't know how to do that with ourselves, and we don't know how to do that with other people. And it was interesting this week in speaking with business owners whose businesses are down, whose traditional data and traditional sales methods are getting crickets, just like mine. And here's the thing, for 20 years, I've had a way of doing business that when I do it, the clients just come. I don't have to do hardcore sales. I don't have to do cold calls, all these other things. I do what I call share my heart, show my work, and people come. And they have for 20 years for a whole lot of prosperity. And it feels so strange right now. And I have another couple of clients that are experiencing this. And no, you're not doing anything wrong. The climate outside of us is in a giant functional and emotional freeze. And so people aren't moving. People aren't spending the way, like in the past, I would just go on Amazon and buy the $11 candle, and I'm all over these $1.47 babies at the grocery store. And what we can do is move to, what did I tell my client? I wrote it down because I liked it. It was like, we're so used to this binary of we're either in abundance or scarcity. This is one of the things that drives me nuts in the personal development, professional development, performance coaching world, is this concept that, and especially in the fucking spiritual world, that, we're in scarcity. And I was thinking the other day, there's a song by Trevor Hall that it's like, I have everything I need. And it's a nice song. I really like it. And I really do believe in having a gratitude practice. But my gratitude practice exists alongside my complaint and fear practice. And over here in this pewter bowl that I dug out of the depths of my kitchen right now are 3 different pieces of paper as a part of my witchcraft. And those 3 different pieces of paper are holding, with sacred holiness and care, my fears, my complaints, my anxieties. They matter. They're also not living alive here in presence. But what happens is when we can connect to this and connect to these parts of ourselves and connect in what I call reality, so many of us in the personal development world are holding ourselves to impossible standards, men and women. And I asked my client the other day, he's a dude. He's had so many successful businesses. He's an entrepreneur at heart. He's worked for himself as long as I can remember. He has a wife and kids and he takes care of. And I could sense that, and I do this too. Like, oh, my business is not working. That means I'm a failure. I'm not happy. That means I'm a failure. No, honey. Sometimes businesses fail. Sometimes markets change. Sometimes the pivot takes a while. And we've got to separate the facts, like the data, here's what's happening, and then the story that we have. And so this is another thing I'm kind of careful to talk about is, don't tell, like there's a way to use that phrase, don't tell yourself a story, because we can bypass. And I am so fucking sensitive, if you haven't already picked it up, I'm so sensitive about this bypass. There's something in me that wants to care for the wild edges of being human. I actually find that empowering, but it requires a lot of courage. It requires a lot of courage to hold the hard. But when we do, our cellular structure changes and we literally generate more power, more confidence. Even if 10 minutes ago we were crying on the floor. If you're a small business and an entrepreneur, you are somebody that takes risk. That's what you do. You specifically did not choose a path. My husband is retired now, but he was a teacher for 30 years and he came from a military family. And so at 62 years old, all he has ever known is a government paycheck on the last business day of the month. And for the last 15 years of his teaching, he did not enjoy it, but he did it for the safety and security. Then he married me. Right. And at the time, safety and security wasn't important to me. It has become important to me now. It has become important to me. It was not innate in me. And learning how to hold both of those, learning how to hold that I do have a need for safety and security. One of my biggest fears in an economic downturn is that I won't be able to afford my healthcare regimen. I take a ton of vitamins, supplements, and hormonal meds to care for myself. My healthcare is my most expensive thing. Take a sip of water, allow myself a break. I see there are 2 people here live. Feel free to say hi in the comments if you want. Ask any questions. When we allow ourselves to be real, so here's the other thing. I'm a strategist. Not only am I an inner, emotional strategist, but obviously I am a strategist in the external stuff too. But when we are willing to look at reality, then we're able to be more precise with our strategy. And so I'm coming back around to where I accidentally fell off the wagon. This concept of either scarcity or abundance. And many years ago, I was taught red light, yellow light, green light, finances and business. And the other day, I was on a call with some fellow coaches, and the coach in charge, the coach that was leading the event, said, keep, cut, or double in this economy. Like, we're looking at our budget going keep, cut, or double. And I've been doing that for a while now. What do I want to keep paying for? What do I need to cut? And what do I want to double down and invest on? And not just financially for me. He was talking about finances, but I'm like, people in my life, emotion, like experiences, stuff. I'm in a process of clearing out stuff. And what I love is, you know, in the world that I came from, both corporate and then the, you know, back in the spiritual days, like when I was still bypassing. So I left Christianity and then I used spirituality to do the same thing I was doing in Christianity, which was bypassing anything real. And so when we're willing to be courageous and listen to anxiety, what are your fears? Fear, what are your fears? Like, what is causing this pain or suffering in my body? And we're willing to look at it with precision and wisdom, then what we're able to do is turn up the dial on discernment and strategy without blaming it on a scarcity mindset. And it's been interesting because in the last few months, the old me would internalize my fear and anxiety around money as a scarcity mindset. No, it's not a scarcity mindset. Money is different right now for most of us. The economy is different for most of us. The price of everything has gone up. My mortgage payment went up by $600. That's a big swing on a mortgage payment. Everything is getting more expensive. It's time to reassess. It's not time to sit on a meditation pillow and delude ourselves into having a positivity bypass and la, 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 I can't hear you. I'm just going to have positive thoughts. I'm not going to complain. I'm going to force myself into this positive little pickle. Bullshit. It's so harmful. And the reason we do that is because we don't have the skills. And fortunately, for those of us that love to learn, if we can realize, oh, this is a skill I can learn, this is something I can learn. Those of us that enjoy learning are like, oh, if it's something I can learn and interested in learning, then I'll go learn it. I'm going to give myself, I'm on a live stream when this is being recorded, so I'm going to give myself a heart in the chat, just because I'm always going to be the first one to like my own post. I don't know what you want to take away. And one of the things I want to know from my audience is what would help you, what would serve you. I have so many thoughts and ideas and inspirations and tools. I have so many helpful things. And let me know how I can help or support you. And this Friday morning, as I'm recording this, I'm just riffing off on these real life experiences of business owners across the world. I have another client that is dealing with tremendous personal loss and death in their family. They're not thinking anything about business. And every single one of us have a veneer of capitalism brain. That's what I call it. This externally conditioned ideal expectation of how it should be. And interesting, this week I was cleaning out my office, found $700 and something, sold something that was in my closet, brand new in the box, sold it on eBay, and then found a retirement account that I had at an old company that was just sitting there. So cleaning out stuff. And I also came across Brene Brown's book, The Gifts of Imperfection, one of her early public works. And I kept it. I got rid of a lot of books, but that one I was like, I think I want to look at this from 53-year-old me instead of 33-year-old me or 35-year-old me. Because I might not have got it then. And so just notice if you're holding yourself to impossible standards, whether it's in business and right, I have this part that's like, but if we allow any space, if we say, yeah, that's hard, this economy is hard, then we will be victims of the economy. That doesn't necessarily have to be true. If we say this market has shifted, the economy is different, and we're willing to look at it, willing to look at our fears around it, then we can strategize, right? Keep, cut, or double. And I'm not just talking cash. Thanks, Rich, for this. Keep, cut, or double. I'm also talking what strategies, what connections, what nurturing practices. One of my clients is a big meditation person, like huge meditation person, leads a weekly meditation in their house and meditates themselves. And they were telling me about a problem. And I said, meditation is not the answer to your problem. At some point, we have to get out of our heads. We have to even get out of our presence. And I said, I'm going to lay this on the table for you. And I said, I invite you, if you have all this extra space, and I'm the same way, I have extra space in my roster, and it's one of the most dangerous things in the world. Listen, I know how to rest. That is not an issue for me. I got that down. And I have certain time in my calendar that when it's empty, I'm like, what do I do? And I can either sit here and plan and do nothing and kind of get in my head, or I could do this inner work, or I could do this strategy, and it does nothing. And so I said, I don't know, offer to drive somebody's kids to school. Like, offer to wash their car. Just tell people, whoever, today at 10 o'clock, I'm going to wash a car. Get into service. And if you don't know what to do, make something up. And this person also runs. And so it was like, oh yeah, I went for a 15-mile run. Well, his 15-mile run, he still is in his head, even though he's moving his body. No, at some point, there's no more mile. Yes, I'm a big believer in move your body. But at some point, when you've done all those things, the answer is not more meditation. The answer is quit thinking about that and go love on somebody. Offer to go grocery shopping for somebody. Offer to mow somebody's yard. These things that you think will be beneath you. Go visit somebody elderly. Go visit people in an elderly home. Just go love on people. And I don't mean love on people for business. I mean to get, and not also to compare yourself. This is the other thing. Like, we don't have to go rescue the suffering to feel good about ourselves. But many of us in the personal development field are so in our heads or so in our practices that we forget. The other day, one of the holiest things I did was clean my damn pool. My wonderful pool. I love my pool, but my pool sweep broke. And so I'm manual cleaning because the pool sweep is $900, and I'm not spending $900 on a pool sweep when I can do it manually. Yes, it's more effort. It's fine. And filled my bird feeder. And of all the things I could do with that empty time, that felt like chopping wood and carrying water imperfectly. And it got me out of my head, and it got me out of my overthinking, and it got me out of my, as my husband says, you try too hard. He's like, I don't try to grow, and I still do. So that's what I have for you today. A little ramble and a riff on a lot of things. May you make space in your heart and your body and in your mind and in your practices, in your way of being, for opening up to a more nuanced and broad view of possibility. Happiness can include your complaints. Success in your life and business can include financial upheavals. Thanks for spending time. Let me know what resonated, what you're taking away. I appreciate the comments, the shares. Like and follow the page.